Hey, welcome back. All right, what this is the shifter out of the Jeep Wrangler 2002 4.0 5-speed with the NV 3550. And what's going on here is this shift boot. It's actually called the Shift Tower Dust Boot. That's pretty worn out. So I was actually able to find one, if you can believe that, and I need to disassemble this thing. So there's a couple videos on how to do it. Basically, the shift rod, this part, is clamped on to this part of the assembly through some kind of spring-loaded mechanism in here. The videos that I found were not very clear. They're just like, here, put some bolts and do this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that seems like it might work, but I didn't really understand what's going on. I thought you just had to put some bolts. In this case, these are metric 6mm 6 by 1.0 bolts. I thought you just had to put them in there and run it down, and by squeezing in, it would release the shaft inside. That's not the case. It's actually the opposite. So these bolts have to be configured very specifically, a bolt with a washer and a nut. And what happens is the bolt gets threaded in, and the washer creates a surface on the outside that you can put pressure, because this hole right here is pretty big. So if you just put the nut by itself, the nut would just go inside. So you actually need to run the bolt, it could be a screw or whatever, down in there with the washer, and then run that nut down. And then what you're going to do is the same exact thing on the other side, because there's two. So screws that in and then run that nut down. And now what you're going to do is tighten these nuts, and that's going to draw the bolt outward and pull that spring apart, and it's going to release. Let me show you. So by tightening that nut, again, it's pulling those bolts outward, which are threaded into the spring mechanism. You can tell this thing's starting to get loose. So we'll go a couple more turns. And there it is. It comes right apart. So I don't know if you can see in there, but some kind of spring mechanism, and it just clamps down onto that. Now it's pretty important actually to keep this thing oriented in such a way that it goes back the same way. There's, I guess, 4 different ways you could do it because it's square, but there's a certain bend in this shaft that has to line up a certain way so that the shifter's in the right place for the driver. So yeah, that's that. As you can see, this thing's worn out, all this stuff's dirty, so guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna clean it and put it back together.